Sometimes the greatest goodbyes happen away from the spotlight. This is the untold story of Pope Francis' final moments, not with cardinals or kings but with a simple nurse who became his guardian angel. It was a quiet morning at Rome's Gemelli Hospital, April 21, 2025. The corridors buzzed softly with nurses changing shifts. In one dimly lit room, Pope Francis, frail after months of battling pneumonia, lay peacefully. Beside him sat Masameliano Straetti, not just his nurse but a friend forged through years of shared battles against illness and loneliness. Their bond wasn't born in grand halls but in simple acts: a firm hand during surgery recovery, soft readings to soothe insomnia, gentle stretches to ease pain. 4 years earlier, after a critical operation, Francis had whispered to Straetti, "You saved my life." From that moment their connection deepened, one built on trust, humility and unspoken prayer. As Francis' condition declined through early 2025, Straetti remained a constant presence, refusing to leave his side even during the longest nights. In March, after a grueling night, Pope Francis looked into Straetti's tired eyes and said, "You are my guardian angel." Straetti simply nodded, overwhelmed. Despite signs of improvement, by mid-April those closest sensed Pope Francis was preparing for his final journey. He spoke more of heaven, of beauty beyond imagination, and in rare whispered conversations with Straetti of gratitude, not fear. Easter Sunday, April 20, 2025. Against all medical advice, Francis insisted on one last blessing for his people. Straetti, understanding the depth of this wish, arranged every precaution. In St. Peter's Square, the frail pontiff, supported by hidden oxygen tanks, raised his hand one final time. Behind him, hidden in the shadows, stood Straetti, the silent guardian who made that moment possible. The morning of April 21, 2025 unfolded gently over Rome at Gemelli Hospital, while the rest of the world continued unaware. Inside one small quiet room, history and humanity were preparing to meet in one final sacred moment. Pope Francis stirred awake, his body weakened beyond repair but his mind still beautifully lucid. The soft hum of medical machines filled the background, blending with the early light creeping through the blinds. Sitting at his usual post in a simple chair by the bedside was Masameliano Straetti, nurse who had long ceased to be just a caregiver and had become something far more profound: a friend, a witness, a sole companion for this journey's end. Francis' eyes dimmed, but still holding that unmistakable spark of warmth, found Straetti immediately. There was recognition, there was peace, but there was also a silent urgency, a knowing. The air shifted, something unspoken passed between them. Straetti, ever attentive, leaned and instinctively years of experience told him, this was not just another breath, not just another restless movement in bed. This was different. There was a stillness, a sacredness to the way the Pope looked at him, as if he were searching for something, or perhaps offering something. Pope Francis struggled briefly, gathering the last reserves of strength left within his frail frame. His hand, thin and trembling, lifted slowly from the white hospital sheets, not the formal sweeping papal wave the world had seen so many times from grand balconies. No. This was smaller, closer, infinitely more intimate, a simple personal wave, a wave meant not for the cameras, not for the crowds, but for one man alone, a farewell of love and gratitude, stripped of all the trappings of office, rich only with heart. Tears welled up in Straetti's eyes, but he willed himself to stay steady. This moment was not about him, it was about honoring a man who even in his final breath thought not of himself but of others. Straetti grasped the Pope's raised hand, gently steadying it in both of his own, as if to anchor the moment, to absorb every ounce of its sacred meaning. Francis' voice, barely a whisper, summoned the strength to speak. "Thank you, my friend," he said, his words soft but clear, each syllable carrying the weight of a life fully lived, a gratitude fully felt. Then, almost like a promise whispered across eternity, he added, "I'll see you in the Father's house." Straetti's heart clenched so tightly he could barely breathe. Somehow, amidst the overwhelming rush of sorrow, he found his voice low, sure, full of love. "Until then, Holy Father," he replied, his voice steady even as tears blurred his vision. "Rest in peace." For a moment the two simply stayed, their hands clasped, eyes locked, hearts speaking the language beyond words. Then, like a candle flickering one last time before going out, Pope Francis' chest rose and fell softer, slower. His eyes fluttered shut, not in fear, not in pain, but in profound peace. Within minutes he slipped into unconsciousness, and shortly thereafter into eternity. There was no chaos, no alarms blaring, no frantic calls. Only the sacred stillness that comes when a great soul takes its final step into the unknown. Straetti remained seated by his side, his hand still wrapped around the Pope's cooling fingers. The world outside was still unaware. For a few more precious moments it was just the two of them, as it had been through countless nights of pain, prayer and whispered conversations about heaven. He gently placed the Pope's hand back onto the bed, straightened the sheets and bowed his head in silent prayer. His own body shook with the force of restrained sobs, but he did not allow himself to fully break. Not yet. There was dignity to uphold, there was a life to honor. Within minutes the hospital staff would be summoned, Vatican officials would be notified, the bells of Rome would toll their solemn announcement, television screens across the world would soon flash the headlines. Pope Francis dead at 88. But none of them would ever truly understand the beauty of these final moments. The cameras would miss the quiet heroism of a simple nurse who held the hand of a dying pope and sent him into eternity, not with fanfare but with love. Straetti sat there a little longer, listening to the silence that now filled the room. His eyes drifted to the small wooden cross that Francis had clutched in his hand for so many nights, worn smooth by endless whispered prayers. At some point during those final moments the Pope had pressed it into Straetti's palm, a silent gift, a sacred relic of friendship and faith. He held it tightly now, feeling the deep warmth of memory, the weight of responsibility to carry forward the lessons Francis had taught him, not just with sermons but with simple acts of mercy, presence, gratitude, humility. As the first rays of full morning poured through the windows, bathing the empty bed in golden light, Straetti finally allowed himself to weep openly, not for the loss of a pope but for the farewell of a beloved friend. Outside life continued. The bells began to toll, crowds gathered, speeches were prepared, history books would be updated. But here inside this quiet hospital room the greatest story had already been written not with ink but with love. It was a story about two men, one who led millions and one who simply stayed day after day, night after night until the very end. A story that proved the most profound goodbyes are not the ones broadcast to the world but the ones whispered hand in hand between two souls who dared to love without condition. And in the final wave, the final thank you and the final breath, Pope Francis gave the world his last and perhaps greatest lesson. That our true legacy is not in the grandeur we leave behind but in the hearts we touch along the way. As the sun climbed higher over Rome that morning, casting its gentle light through the hospital windows, a chapter quietly closed, not just for the Catholic Church but for humanity itself. In the days that followed, the world would gather to mourn. Leaders would speak of Pope Francis' legacy, his advocacy for the poor, his efforts to reform the Church, his call for environmental stewardship and his unwavering message of mercy. But those grand tributes, though true, could never fully capture what had unfolded in that small quiet hospital room. The real legacy of Pope Francis wasn't just in his public deeds, it was written in the silent sacred language of presence, in the hand that gripped the friends, in the gratitude whispered through a final breath, in the unwavering trust between two souls at the edge of eternity. In the simple waved goodbye to Masameliano Straetti we witnessed something far greater than ceremony. We saw the truth that at lives' end titles dissolve, achievements fade, and what remains is love, the kind of love that needs no words, no cameras, no applause. Pope Francis taught us that true greatness isn't about how high we rise but how deeply we love. It's not about how loudly we lead but how quietly we care. It's not about being remembered by millions but about being held in the heart of even just one. His final lesson was not written in books nor proclaimed from balconies. It was lived in the humble holy friendship between a pope and his nurse. And in that last trembling wave he showed us the way forward. Live with gratitude. Love with presence. And when your time comes, leave not with regret but with a simple heartfelt thank you. Because in the end it is not the crowns we wear or the thrones we sit upon that matter. It is the hands we hold. The hearts we touch. The souls we walk home with. That is the true journey. That is the truest goodbye. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe and share. It helps us bring more heartfelt stories to the world, stories that remind us of what truly matters. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.